Hey everybody, welcome to Review with Me, your review guide of shows, movies, and everything in between. Be sure to click the like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get on with this review. Hey y'all, we are back with another review of Married at First Sight, Season 18, Episode 12, titled, I Just Want to Eat You Up. Now, maths, come on. Y'all was being petty with this title, but let's get into it. It's a whole bunch of shit. Okay, we start off with Camille. Camille is driving yet again. This woman here, she talks about wanting to have a husband who takes more of initiative, takes more of the wheel, so to speak. Yet every time I see them in the car, I have yet to see Thomas driving. Did I miss a scene previously? Did he drive a car at one point? Like, does he not know how to drive? What's going on with Thomas? Anyway, they are heading to Camille's family's house. And this episode seems to be the episode where they focus on meeting additional family members, closer friends, and connecting with their inner child. Okay, so we see them heading to the family house. Camille talks about how she wants to be more soft. She wants to have more of her feminine side shown. When they arrive at the home, it's very cute. We meet Camille's grandmother. We meet Camille's foreign ass uncle. Hello? Hello, Keon. The whole scene, I was like, I want to hear him speak. Everyone else spoke except for him. He was just happily in the scene. Anyway, they're sifting through memories from Camille's childhood as she was a basketball star. Apparently she was a big deal. So that was pretty cool of her. And I think it also explains her being this more of the aggressor in the relationship, and not in a negative way that Akechi will use the word aggressive, but aggressor in the sense of take initiative. So she's the big sister. And since she was young, she had to be this parentified child. And we learned that term was used to describe her since last episode. Let's cut to Amem and Akechi. So we see Akechi talking to us in his solo iPhone cam. And he's telling us how he has these mixed emotions about moving back in. Remember, last episode, it ended with Akechi begrudgingly saying yes to moving back in with Amem. After Amem asked in that moment, and after Dr. Pia said, this marriage can't work if we don't live in the same home. So Akechi saying to us in his car, solo cam, talking about, I don't want to lose my peace. I don't want to lose my peace. And whenever I'm around her, whenever I'm in that home, my peace is gone. I feel uncomfortable. He continues to use the word uncomfortable. Y'all notice that? And look, I also want to be a bit more progressive when it comes to my thoughts about men being able to express their level of comfort in relationships. I do think that is necessary for us to recognize. So I want to be fair here and not look at Akechi like this clown that he is, because two things could be true. He could very well be a disrespectful person and very disrespectful towards Amem, but he could also be very well entitled to his feelings, and his feelings should be validated. And I say that because, again, we've come so far in our society as far as we're talking more openly about taboo topics, but we don't always give space for men, especially Black men, to express themselves. So that's something that I'm trying with Akechi. He does make it hard. And he's saying here that he does not want to lose his peace. And I also want to note that he says that he he's gained his peace since he's lived on his own. And that tells me a lot. It tells me a lot about his upbringing. Probably, he probably didn't have a lot of peace when he was living with family, living with others. And since living on his own, since moving to a new city, away from his family, he has gained a level of peace that he hasn't experienced. And I do want to honor that peace. I feel like we, again, need to create space for men, especially Black men, to vocalize their feelings. So, again, two things can be true with Akechi. He could be a POS, but I do want to give him space to express himself. So I'm trying to find the even balance here. We cut to David and Michelle. Now, who is the star of this episode, child? David. And not in a good way. David. I don't even know what to say with David. Now, look, let me just give y'all the tea. Okay, so David and Michelle, they're in the car. David is driving, right? Finally a man is driving. But anyway, David is driving. They're on their way to Michelle's family. So they're driving. Michelle is telling him that she feels not uncomfortable. What is the word? She's just saying how she feels. Yeah, she says verbatim that she is struggling in this marriage, and she is very much looking forward to returning to her family's home and having that quality time because she is struggling in this marriage. Then she brings up this text. Y'all, and my goodness, I don't even know. Let's shout out to Jadakiss. Okay, so she says, I got an interesting text from you last night. What was that about? And we see on the screen that the text says verbatim, "You are so damn fine. I want to eat you up." This is the text that David sent to Michelle. Now, we know throughout this whole season, David and Michelle have not been at all romantically close. They have not been sexually active. They have not at all been intimate in any capacity when it comes to physically, never mind emotionally. It's just a complete block. What I could give them at the very least, because you know how Michelle be like, well, we have some progress. We talked after, coming home from work for 20 minutes. That's a lot of progress. Like, Michelle, bye. Anyway, what I can give them credit for is they sit on the same couch. And the fact that I have to say that is telling. It tells us how low of a bar their marriage is. Like, the fact that they could sit on the same couch together and me recognize that as some success is hilarious. But I'm comparing that to Akechi and Mem because Akechi can't even stomach sitting next to a Mem. That's how uncomfortable he is with her. And at the same time, I do want to give him space to be uncomfortable and have these feelings, but come on, God. Come on, man. Stop it. Okay, back to this text. So David sent this text to Michelle, totally out of left field, totally out of nowhere. David is, mind you, he's driving. And when a man lie, they have to be quick on their toes. Well, anyone, when they lie, anyone. But I've noticed that when men lie, they do their best to maintain a level of calm, or they do their best to be dismissive. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, let's move on because I don't know how long I can keep up with this lie, right? So he says he was texting his cousin Denise. He has to throw in a name because that makes him more valid, right? I was texting my cousin Denise, and Denise was, she was in Chinatown, and Chinatown, they have this crazy food, and she texted me a picture of the food, and I was like, yo, that looks so good. I want to eat it. I want to eat you up. I said, David, what? First of all, let's go back to the text verbatim. What it said verbatim, you are so damn fine. Is this what you say to a picture of food? You've never, no one does that. What are we talking about, David? Like, when I tell you this was a lie from the pits of his ass crack, I don't know what. Yo, and mind you, She said when he texted her this, he didn't respond. She didn't respond. It just was a text that laid there. And he said he thought he erased, well, he said he deleted the text on his end. So I'm assuming he has an iPhone. I don't know if Android has that feature, but you could delete a portion of the text. Like you could delete certain text messages. But regardless of you deleting it on your phone, it is still delivered to the recipient. The recipient still has the text. And the very least that you could do is unsend it. Look at me trying to give y'all game. The least he could have done was unsend it. But he probably didn't realize it until much later, because unsending, that feature don't appear after a few minutes. Like you have to be quick. Like maybe within the first minute, that unsend feature is available to you. So he's giving this poor ass excuse saying, oh, he was texting his cousin. You are so damn fine. I want to eat you up. Texting her about a food image that she sent. It just was completely laughable. And what I want to give Michelle is, I want to give her an award. I want to give Michelle an award. Why do I want to give her an award? Because she stayed in her role, as far as she calmly asked him questions. They were on their way to her family's home, and she was able to compartmentalize this conversation, yet, still have a good enough time at her family's house. Like, I find that to be so commendable, because, some people will be like, fuck this, just going off, right? Going off, would have had a hard time putting this to the side. It would have been even more cringe and awkward energy between them. So I feel like Michelle, maybe that just shows her maturity in this moment, at least. But I do find that to be very commendable. So we're at Michelle's family's home, and all of them say that Michelle, well, at least her friend who she met in her high school / college years, her friend says that Michelle was kind of hard to open up to. Like, not hard to open up. Michelle didn't open up easily. She doesn't open up easily. It takes a while for her to open up. And it was hard to kind of build a connection with her because she was closed off and she didn't really say much. But after a while, she finally does warm up to you. And I remember watching the after show and trying to understand the mindset behind Michelle's lack of willingness to open up quickly. And there was no quantification of that. Like, Keisha Knight Pullum, she was asking, okay, so how long does it take for you to open up? Michelle didn't really give an answer. It was just like, it just takes me a long time to open up. And I found that to be very interesting because, you sign up to be on a show, you're marrying a stranger at first sight. You should have worked on that prior to coming on the show. You should have realized, okay, I'm marrying a stranger. I need to do better with opening up. Not to say you have to spill your guts about your childhood trauma day one, but you have to be willing to give more. You have to be willing to have an open heart. All these things you have to be willing to share. And this excuse of, it takes a while for me to open up. I think this has to be the last time we hear this. I really do. I feel like they should start getting fined if they continue to use this as an excuse moving forward in future seasons. Seriously, because this is a common thing that's been said throughout the season, in previous seasons. It's a common thing, and I just find that to be so ridiculous. Like, y'all knew what y'all signed up for, right? What are we talking about? So we cut to Madison and Alan. So Madison is opening up to Alan some more and telling him about her relationship with her mom and how negligent her mom was. There was she wasn't really direct as far as how her mom was negligent. I'm not saying that she wasn't negligent, but from the story that she gave, she said how when she was younger, she went to a middle school, and that first middle school that she went to, a lot of the girls there were cliquey, and she didn't fit in. So they transferred middle schools, and she says she was so happy that they did that, and she gained a lot of middle school friends. She gained a lot of friends at that middle school. And a birthday of hers, she invited so many of the girls from her middle school to her home for the birthday party. And her mom brought her new boyfriend with her to the party and made a fool of herself. Now, she didn't tell us exactly how. And just me being nosy, maybe I'm not a good listener when it comes to that though, because I'm just like, wait, how? What did she do to make a fool of herself? But nonetheless, I'll take you at your word. I'll definitely take you at your word. But I just wrote down alcoholic ? Because we remember the last episode, Madison was very much triggered about Alan's lack of refusal to listen to her when she said, don't drive while drunk. And Alan was like, I'm fine. I know my body weight. I know how much I could handle, and yada, yada, yada. So I'm assuming that her mom was an alcoholic, and yeah. So anyway, that speaks to her relationship that she had with her and how that impacted her childhood. She tells us about her love for softball, and when she played softball, it was a way for her to become more of herself. She became into herself more, and she felt more confident through the sport, and yada, yada, yada. So Alan is sympathetic, and he's been a great listener, and that's cool and all. Madison did say towards the end of her story that she really does appreciate him and the fact that she is able to open up to him. And she says she does want this to work. Now, inside I was like, oh, okay, that's good to hear, good to see. But I feel like in that moment, Alan was not at all buying it. Yes, I believe Alan was sympathetic towards her, and he was compassionate about her upbringing, yada, yada, yada. But I don't think he buys the fact that she's saying, I want this to work. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to show it. And Madison doesn't show that. She's not affectionate. She's not just like warm with him in a romantic set and in a romantic sense. So in that moment, you could see Alan's face, and he was just like, okay, he also says later, I think he also says it in the scene that, it takes more than just us having these conversations as far as talking about our past. Like, we have to, like, he basically was saying, like, okay, like, we also gotta fuck. Like, that's what he was saying. That's what I got from it. Okay, so we cut to Amem and Akechi. Amem and Akechi, each of them is meeting with their friend at a respective location. Akechi is meeting with his guy friend at a training club. Apparently, Akechi boxes. I couldn't tell, but okay. And Amem, she's meeting with her friend at a dog washing facility. Now, this is a little side note. If I'm bringing my dog to get a wash, I might as well just pay for the whole groom. Like, what am I? Like, no, she was washing her dog at this location. And maybe some people do that, but I just felt like if I'm going to do the base, I might as well just, if I'm doing the base of the service at a location, y'all might as well just do the whole thing. Like, I'm paying for something anyway. So, something that I just thought of. Anyway, so Amem is telling her friend, saying that she's very direct, and Akechi is not receptive to that. He doesn't really respond well to her questions, and she tells her friend that she's been dealing with disrespect from Akechi since the beginning of their marriage. Her friend is in disbelief, like, this is too early for all of that disrespect. So she tells her, about the whole aggressive comment and yada, yada, yada. Akechi, on the other hand, he's talking to his friend, and he's doing the whole boxing thing, 1 2 1 2, boom boom boom, 1 2 1 1, that. And he starts off by telling his friend that she always asks me questions. And then his own friend, told him, well, isn't she trying to get to know you? And I was like, thank you. Clock that T. And Akechi says, okay, yeah, but look at it like this. If I'm saying to you, tell me who you are. You see how you're stumbling right now? See how you're at a loss for words right now? That is what I'm talking about. She doesn't, she comes off aggressive. And again, he uses the word aggressive. And his friend was like, oh, okay, I see what you mean. Now, tell me who you are. Let's talk about that phrase. Now, who knows? Maybe Amem did really say those words verbatim to him. And maybe the way that she talks does come off very direct. I don't want to say aggressive in that case, but maybe she is so in your face, like, okay, tell me who you are, and maybe her way of doing it doesn't have a soft touch to it. Maybe she doesn't smile when I don't know. I really don't know. All I know is Akechi, he doesn't like questions at all. He doesn't like to be questioned at all. And that is the problem. Because on one end, I could agree, right? I could agree with the fact that when you're constantly, when you're talking to someone and it feels like you're being interrogated, then that is uncomfortable. I remember I used to date this guy, and the conversation wouldn't just flow. It just felt like it was always a question after the end of a statement. It never just flowed into another point. And I didn't like that. And it was primarily done through text message. It was just super weird and unnecessary. So in that case, I get it. But I also feel like Akechi doesn't care to really open up. He doesn't open up. He doesn't lead the conversation. He doesn't show interest. He's not present physically nor mentally in the moment. And Amem is not working with much here. So because we have to create a scene, somebody has to talk. Are we just going to sit here, look at each other with this grouch on our face? That's what I don't like. So Akechi, come on. You're not telling the full story here. You're super quiet. How are we supposed to just get to know each other, but there's no conversation? We have to have some conversation. And there has to be just a flow as well. So I feel like two things should be happening at the same time. There should be conversation, and there should just be an appreciation of the moment, a presence of just the moment in time. So we cut to Carla and Juan. They're writing to their younger selves. Juan says that he's going to write a letter to his younger self at 3 points of his younger life. So when he was 6 months, when he was 6 years old, and when he was 16 years old. I found it to be interesting. How did that's 6 and 6? Come on. And Carla's writing a letter to her 10-year-old self. Juan tells us when he was 6 months, he was almost kidnapped by the maid in Colombia. So he had to be sent to another family member's home while his parents worked. When he was 6 years old, his parents left him again because they wanted to chase the American dream. And when he was 16 years old, that's when his father got sick. But thankfully, his father has recovered and he seems to be doing well. And he got emotional while telling us this backstory. Now look, okay. Thing is with Juan, I know a lot about his parents, but I don't know a lot about him. Let me say it again. I know a lot about Juan's parents, but I don't know a lot about him. I don't. Now, you could say, well, the way your parents are and how they raise you, that definitely influence you. It definitely has an impact on you. I get that. But I also feel like that's an easy way to cushion or to hide behind them. I feel like with Juan, he doesn't open up truly about himself. Like, what happened with how you dealt with feelings at that moment? Or how did you go about, like, were you bullied at one point? Were you molested? Tell me something that happened to you. Instead, we hear about, maybe it's the way that he's telling these stories. We just hear more about his parents being the main character, right? It was his parents who left him at 6 months, at 6 years, and 16 years old. One of his parents almost left him for good. For good. So, again, I feel like with Juan, he doesn't give us about himself. And I remember that conversation they had a few episodes ago when Carla asked him, what is your love language? What are some things that you require that you need in a relationship romantically? And Juan kept mentioning his parents. Juan kept saying, well, my parents, they've been married for 50 years or whatever. And, the way that they care for each other, the way that they give service to each other, that's what I like to see. And it's like, it's one thing to admire your parents and to see their marriage and say, oh, I want pockets of that in my own relationships. Cool. But tell me about specifically you in your relationships. So tell us about your previous relationship. What did you like from that relationship? What are some takeaways that you could bring into this marriage that you recognize is a love language of yours? So say, with my ex-girlfriend, we used to give each other small gifts, and it was small, it was thoughtful, and I just love that because I got to really learn about things that she liked, and she learned things, things like that. But he always referenced his parents. Now, this may also be an immigrant thing. I think oftentimes when immigrants talk about themselves, they always, especially children of immigrants, sometimes the conversation creates, the main character are the parents. The main characters are the parents. And I feel like that is just the upbringing of how to revere your parents, talk about them all the time, create your life about them, do what they did. But there's no room to really talk about what you like, what you desire, what you want, and what you want to see in your marriage. So Carla, she writes a letter to her 10-year-old self. She says to her 10-year-old self that she wants to see, you should bring your armor down, drop the armor. It's okay to be soft. And I found it to be funny because while Juan was talking about his 16 and 6-year-old self, we saw him crying. Like, he was getting very emotional. He was getting sad about it. And it was definitely traumatic. Don't get me wrong. But Carla was sitting there with her bobbling ass head like, girl, get up. Mind you, Juan is getting up. Juancho, he's getting up. He's walking around. He's like, this is so hard. This is so hard. This is so, like, she's not saying anything. She's sitting there stoic as hell. Carla, are you there? Carla. She was sitting there stoic as hell. Didn't say anything. And I found it to be very funny because I remember, at the couple anniversary dinner when Amem was, quote unquote, getting out of pocket, when she was finally letting Akechi have it, Carla was quick to say something and trying her best to reel Amem back. She was saying to her, just, calm down, don't let him get out your cat. Like, she was speaking, she was doing some type of consoling in that moment. But with Juan, her own husband, she's seeing him break down in front of her. She's not doing anything. She could have said something like, it's okay. She could have gotten up. She could have rubbed his back. It was weird. They're both weird. And we touch on that later on in this episode when they talk about affection. Carla says she is someone who likes affection. She likes to be affectionate. She likes affection done towards her. Yet you don't show that. Like, where is your move for that to happen too? You can't always expect the man to do all of the first moves. If you want it, go ahead and test the waters. You got to dip your toe in to see what the temperature is. Hello? Dip the toe in the water and see what the temperature is, Carla. Like, you can't just sit back all bobbleheading as and not do anything. Your man is standing up, breaking down. He's running around the damn bookshop, and you're sitting there. Girl, get up and console your man. Alan and Madison. So they're going fishing. Fishing. Alan is telling Madison that this was an activity that he and his father would do a lot. And they would go fishing for 4 to 5 hours and wouldn't say a damn word to each other. And that's how they bonded. Men are hilarious. Like, what? How you not talk at all for 4 to 5 hours? I bet Akechi would have loved that, right? Akechi would have loved that. Would have been a day from heaven. He tells Madison about his upbringing and the custody battle that he experienced when he was a child, and not feeling centered in his childhood. Instead, his parents were too focused on fighting each other in the custody battle. He has a stepsister who Alan says he felt like she held resentment towards him because she didn't get much attention when she was younger either, because their parents were too focused on fighting for the custody of him. Then he got emotional and said how literally the day before the wedding, when he married Madison, he got a call from his stepsister, and that was the first time he heard from her in 18 years. I would have been like, bitch, hang up the phone. I would have been like, bitch, how'd you get this number? Now you want to call me? Child, okay. But apparently in the conversation, the stepsister was like, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your fault. Because Alan felt like it was his fault as to why his parents didn't give, his stepsister any attention when she was growing up. And I feel like, okay, if you feel like it wasn't his fault, then why haven't you spoken to your brother in 18 years? And now the day before the wedding, now you want to reach out? And with certain events in our life, we tend to create so much of a hoopla around it, right? A wedding, a life tragedy, anything like that. People tend to come out of the woodwork. But I just want to see that same energy on a regular Tuesday. I don't want to see that same energy on my way to work on a Friday. Like, where's that same energy? It took for him to get married at first sight, for him to hear from his stepsister in over 18 years. Girl, I would have hung up that phone so fast, but hey, better than me. Okay, Juan and Carla. Carla says that she is finally ready to let Juan meet her parents. Girl, bye. I don't know why. This ain't gonna work, but okay, sure. And then she gives us this whole spiel that she signed up to be on the show, not them, so they don't want to be on the camera. I don't get that. What is are your parents incognito? Where are your parents, Carla? We want to see your parents. I don't see what the big deal is. We cut to Camille and Thomas. Thomas is having Camille meet his biological mother. Remember, Thomas is adopted. And he has a twin brother who was adopted as well, but they weren't together. So that's a very sister type of storyline here. With the story that we learn from this scene, Thomas's biological mother, she got pregnant at 16 with Thomas's sister, and she had Thomas and his twin brother shortly thereafter, and she realized, okay, I can't raise these babies by myself. I can't do it. So she came across someone who had this adoption agency and decided to give up her kids. And of course, she felt a mixture of emotions, of regret, of pain, of maybe acceptance that maybe it's best for them to be with their adoptive parents. And thankfully, because, there are so many horror stories when it comes to adoption and kids in orphanages and kids in foster homes. So I'm happy to hear that Thomas and his brother did not experience anything horrific. And I'm happy they were raised in a healthy home. But yeah, his biological mom talks about his reasons behind that, her reasons behind that. One thing I noticed about his mom, y'all gonna please forgive me. I was like, when just the way that she spoke, the way that she appeared, and the way that she behaved throughout this scene, it told me a lot about her and how she probably was reckless at the age of 16. Why do I say that? As soon as she came, as they came in, she greeted them, or she was like, okay, I'm gonna give you a shot, let's take this tequila shot. And Camille's being very nice. And I do like to, I appreciate that. I appreciate that she was being nice here, and she was not being judgmental, and she was kind of leading y'all notice she was leading the conversation. Thomas was just sitting back. It took Camille to say, if you don't mind sharing, could you share, your reasons behind bringing Thomas to be adopted. Like, Camille was the one leading the show. Like, Camille, is this your mom? Like, why is Camille leading this conversation? Thomas, yet again, is showing up as a beta. He's showing up as a beta. And I think he was the one who drove the car this time. But regardless, why are you not the one talking? We're at your biological mother's house and Camille's doing most of the talking. What are we doing? What's going on here? His biological mom, she just felt very disjointed, out of wax. When she was taking the tequila shot, she was like, like it's a Coke. Like she was drinking a Diet Coke. Like she popped a soda can. Girl, and that gave me the impression. It gave me the impression that she does this pretty regularly. That she takes her shots pretty regularly. And she was like, oh, that felt good. Oh, that felt good. As if it was something for her blood. As if it was something that she was craving all day. Y'all, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but it gave me enough of why. Aside from the fact, yeah, she's 16 raising a kid. I get that part. But there are a lot of people who were teenage parents and didn't give their children up for adoption. I think Thomas's mom, his biological mother, I don't think she was stable in that sense. So that's just my opinion. She also mentions that Thomas is sensitive. I mean, I didn't have to tell you that. So we get to Amem and Akechi. They're finally back in the apartment, the shared home, but not for long, only for this scene, because Akechi, he came in and was like, yeah, I was thinking about me moving back, but I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel at peace. So I'm not going to move back. And right in that moment, as soon as he finished saying that statement, Amem said, I've been thinking the same thing. And I agree. I don't think it's best for you to move back in. And I think it's best for us to take it slow. And I thought this was very good. I like that she said that. And it felt genuine. Because you know how people be like, oh, I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say the same thing. When they're just saying that out of defense. But I really believe she meant that, because Akechi said, prior to him walking into the home, in his little confessional, he said Amem sent him a text that she wanted to talk. And I think that annoyed him, because he's probably thinking like, oh, I gotta talk, But I felt like that was Amem's way of telling us or letting us know that she's gonna agree, or that she was in the same ballpark as far as not wanting him to move back in and for us to be in the same home. So Amem, she was leading with feeling throughout this conversation. She was leading with the advice that Dr. Pia mentioned previously about don't come in too strong. Don't come in with the my husband, my husband, my husband. Instead, lead with feeling. So, Ma'am, I was really proud of her for doing so, because with Akechi, you have to, I feel like on one end, us as women, we think, oh, we gotta not let them see us sweat. We gotta act like it doesn't affect us. But I'm learning along the way that no, these are your feelings. Like, stop being afraid to express yourself and say, I was hurt by that. That made me feel dismissed. So I like that she was definitely showing her feelings in this scene. She was saying how she felt dismissed by him because she would text him over and over and he wouldn't reply. He wouldn't reach out. And she said that because Akechi said he feels like he has been doing his part as far as replying to, or like talking to her. And I like that at the end he said, do you not think that's true? And she was like, no, that's not true. I've been texting you back and forth, but you haven't been responding to my texts. And that makes me hurt. That makes me feel hurt. That makes me feel dismissed. And Akechi, at least in that moment, he was receptive to it. He said, your feelings are valid. And eventually he did say he'll work on that. But, we're not buying that anyway. He then got a bit defensive. And I can't remember what led him to get defensive. I think, I remember. So Amem was saying how, like, we can't move forward until we, like, talk about, the week that they had previously when he didn't reply to her, didn't do anything. And he's saying how that's not productive. I don't want to talk about, that was the past. I don't want to talk the past. I don't want to talk about, we get it, Akechi. You don't want to talk about anything about your life, about yourself. You just want to talk about art. That's all you want to do. You want to talk about art. So he gets defensive in that moment. You can see it in his face. Like, he totally switches up. It's so weird. It's kind of creepy. Mem, ooh, God bless her. I think she should run a master class of how to still be emotionally intelligent in the face of a narc, in the face of an a-hole, right? And she calls him out. She said, you seem defensive right now. He said, I am defensive. Then he's like, can I get some water? Can I get some water? I'm like, is he okay? I'm trying to circle back to what exactly happened for him to get so flustered. He got so flustered. His face was telling us everything that we needed to know in that moment, that he can't take anything. So, of course, questions are too much for him. Of course, pinning him down and tell me who you are, that's too much for him. So he gets up and he goes get some water, and I guess he finally calms down. It was just so ridiculous. Like, okay, man, relax. So we cut to Michelle and her eyebrow lady friend, and she tells her about the text that she got from David that she butt got. By butt got, I mean, butt dial text. That's what she got from David. She's saying how she thinks that he definitely was sexting another woman, and she also made the guess or the assumption that it could have been a woman from the couple group that we're a part of, because prior to the text being sent, she knows that he was out with the couples, and maybe the text was sent to another woman in the group. So this could lead to the conversations or rumors happening about a wife swap happening later on in this season. We'll see. So Michelle says that she will speak to David one-on-one. Well, speak to him even further about this and get to the bottom of it. So we cut to Carla and Juan. Carla is allowing Juan to meet the rest of her family. He's meeting her cousins, and they're having some conversation about affection. We again learned that Carla is affectionate, but how is that true? Because you don't show that. You're not affectionate with this guy here. You're not at all. And yet Juan says, yeah, we're working towards being affectionate. How? Tell me the scene when we see that, because I have yet to see that. I think it's both of them, y'all. I don't think it's just Juan. I definitely don't think it's just Juan. I think both of them need to work on that. If Juan says he's not affectionate, so that may be a little bit harder. But regardless, there's no work towards that happening at all between them. So we finally cut to David and Michelle with our last scene here. And they really, again, this is the star of this episode. David is the star of this episode. Michelle calls him out. Instead of them reading the letters that they prepared for each other about the letters that they wrote to their younger selves, Michelle's like, I want to circle back to this text and talk about this because I don't buy it. I don't buy that you were texting your cousin Denise about a food item that she texted you while she was in Chinatown. You know, when people have to give so many details of a story, that's how you know it's a lie. Because if it's the straight up story, if it's the truth, you just tell it. Instead, when it's a lie, you give all these details because you're feeling guilty, your heart's probably racing, and you want it to come across as a real story. So I'm going to give some details. I'm going to be more, descriptive, all of these things. And it just makes him look even more foolish. And I'm trying to root for David because when I saw this scene was coming up about him possibly sexting someone and all of that, I was like, well, Michelle hasn't been giving him any play. I don't care. Like, if he is cheating, whether it led to a physical moment with another woman or maybe just an emotional one, on one end, I was like, okay, well, this marriage ain't nothing. Like this, we know clearly they're going to say no, or she's going to say no, most definitely. But nonetheless, Michelle's saying, regardless, that's disrespectful to their marriage, and I don't buy it. She even asked him to show me the picture of the food item that supposedly this text was from your cousin. Apparently, again, the story is his cousin Denise, I'm saying her name like she's a character on the show. His cousin Denise sent him a text of a food item while she was in Chinatown, and apparently, it looked so delicious. He said to her verbatim, let me say the text again, y'all, because this text just ridiculous. He says verbatim, I want to eat you. You are so damn fine. I want to eat you up. You don't say that to a picture of food. Michelle gives a good point saying, the pronouns that you use for food is typically not you. It's typically it or that. And instead, he's saying you. Then David wants to give this silly excuse saying, well, that's just how me and my cousin talk. We talk crazy like that. We talk like, no, please. Now you trying to say it's a vernacular thing? Come on, David. Come on. So then Michelle asked him a very pointed question. She said, okay, well, have you been seeing other women? He then says, yeah, I've seen Danielle. I've seen Josie. I've seen Rebecca. He names three different women, y'all. And he's saying how, yeah, I seen Danielle. We dated from Tinder, but, we're still friends. And I seen Michelle. We fucked a few times, but we're just friends. David, if you don't get out the house. And he said how he goes out with them. So he is going out with his female friends whom he've had a sexual relationship with, and he's saying it so flippantly. And Michelle's looking at him like, is this man okay? Are you serious right now? So yeah, that's that. Let me know in the comments what you think. Do y'all buy David's story? Was he simply texting that text because of a food item because of crab ragoon? Was it crab ragoon that he saw? Or did he see somebody else? Did he see something else? Let me know what y'all think. Leave it in the comments, and I'll see y'all next time. Peace.